Okay.
Yes, very good. Okay, so we're live. Thank you guys very much. So this is the after show from my normal noon show, and I've invited Nicholas Gibbs to join us. Nicola. I know that as far as I calls you all sorts of different names, but I just wanted you to come on. Thank you for doing this. I've been doing this experiment where we're taking some of the folks that were watching the previous show and continuing the conversation beyond the 20, 30 minutes that we just did an update. But what do you think is the biggest news that's been happening? There seems to be like so many good news for Tesla since December, like last December. Even though the stock price wasn't catching up with it, it's just one bit of good news. I think that obviously the big one was the global price cuts and them saying that there is no softening in demand. There's the Cybertruck is on track. Maybe some people interpret that to be delayed, but it's still going to happen this year. The gigafactories are highly efficient at this point. Both Berlin and Texas, the megapack factories are moving along. The government subsidies for the supercharger that came out today, just all these things that are happening, so many things. What is the one that you are most excited for?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's a one. Honestly, well, if I had to pick one, if you were gonna hold me to that, I would say it's one you didn't even name yet, and it was Elon's tweet recently about FSD beta and how once 11.3 comes out, that they're
Yeah.
going to start working on the European version to get that in front of regulators. And to me, that was extremely bullish. So to and that's me based on what I care about. As far as the stock goes, I think I mean, who knows what it is, right? I mean, when we saw the price cuts, to your point, don't forget everybody was doom and gloom about that. And then the next day, the stock tanked for about 30 minutes. And then it recovered massively, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's one thing. If anything, it's probably more so everything's been happening for such a long time. All the good news that you and I have talked about many a times over the last year that we just didn't see any recognition from, and I feel like it's a cup that's overfilled. And it's about time.
Okay, I wanted you because I've had you on this show several times last year, and you were saying that it all matters on the macro, and then you were saying what happens is the earnings report by the other companies. And so, since that's now done, or most of it has been done, what is your new expectation for the economy that's headed forward, and then therefore Tesla as a growth company, right? Is it going to start being a beta stock, is it going to start to adjust, and now people are going to start throwing money, or is it way too early still?
This is a hard one. All right. So
Yeah.
everything I'm going to say, it's my own opinion based on my gut and what I'm seeing out in the world. So take it with a huge grain of salt. But I was just listening to Sam Zell. He's on CNBC right now doing a fantastic interview. And I think I think I'm in his ball camp. I still think
Okay.
it's too early.
Mm-hmm.
It still feels like something there's a problem. It just seems very apparent to me. All right. We have rates extremely high, yet I see unemployment all over the tech sector spilling into the financial sector, and who knows how long this rolls on for. I'm seeing housing demand increase now, despite everything that's going on. People are getting laid off, not making as much money, yet things are more expensive. I have yet to see anybody take any kind of austerity measures, and this is including friends and family that I know of. And I'm just looking around the economy, and everybody has acted like nothing has changed. Everything's the same. Housing has barely ticked down. I don't care what anyone says. Look at the numbers. It's sure there are some price decreases, but not in the same ballpark as what you would expect. And it seems like things are very disconnected right now. It seems like there's another shoe to drop. The Fed hasn't stopped. To your point, all the numbers are looking so good. The numbers are looking so good. There's a disconnect. I
Okay.
feel like there's no such thing as getting lucky. All right. I don't think we're going to get lucky and somehow the economy is just so strong that it can ignore everything the Fed's doing. And it's all just going to be, rainbows and sunshine and we're all going to live happily ever after. I don't see that being the outcome. And I think Tesla will have to, will be dragged down as an effect of that as well. But right now, going into March 1st, I think there's a lot of excitement.
I mean, so we saw the stock fall from 300 to 100, of course, from September to December. We saw it jump from 100 to 200 because all the things that made it fall from December seem to be resolved or resolving. So macro is starting to improve better, much better than it was in the last quarter, of course. And so where do you see the stock going? And are you somebody that kind of makes guesses of where do you think it's going to go from here? Or are you kind of more of a long-term person and don't look at these things?
I'm both.
Yeah.
I'm all about the long term. At the end of the day, that's what I invest for, is the long term. But who doesn't like making predictions and being wrong and then being right? And it's fun. To not have an opinion is to just not be voicing your opinion, because we all have an opinion about what's going to happen. In my opinion, right now, and I'm actively looking at the stock right now. If we can break 214, I see us running up to 220 to 250 in the short term, and I think that'd be up until March 1st, and then from March to May, June, July, I see that potentially being kind of a reckoning moment, and I could see us pulling back down to 150 maybe, but those are just random predictions and guesses. It's just,
Sure.
I think we have ran up too far, way too fast. I think the macros have not resolved at all. We're going to see an impact on Tesla numbers from margins. Who knows how much, but that will have its own narrative that gets spun out. And who knows what other black swan event could happen between now and then. We got China going on. Russia's about to intensify with their, it's nonstop.
Okay, I disagree. My opinion is different than yours because the S&P is where it was in September. In September, we were at 300, and we had a macro issue. We had a war happening, and so what's happening now is that institutional investors have been starting to pile on. We're starting to see the reports now that they were buying in fourth quarter of 2022, like we all knew that they would be at 100, and they're waiting for kind of the messiness of Elon, Twitter, and having a better view what's happening with China, and the price cuts really changed the narrative in my mind. And so now any good news is going to prop this up because it's primarily the institutional investors that are investing like crazy. So in my mind, and the other thing I've been saying a lot is that when people say to me, "Oh, it's gonna, we've jumped up too fast." No. If it fell from 300 to 100 in 2 months, why can't it rise from 100 to 300 in 2 months if the fundamentals of the company hasn't changed, if not, in fact, improved? You have China demand issues that's been put to rest. You've got the macro that's much improved from what it was in October, the fear. Maybe it's not 100% gone, but it's there. You've got Twitter being resolved, even though, just yesterday he did say that he's not going to hire a new CEO until the end of the year. But he's not going to have to sell stock for Twitter anymore. And so I think that institutional investors are piling on right now, and they're going to keep piling on. And then the other reason why the stock fell, and we talked about this at my Cyber Bulls show with Warren Redlich there, was that it's the huge number of margin holders of retailers, Tesla retailers, who got hammered last year. So once they're out of they've been wiped out, they're gone, they're out of the system. Now you're getting the institutionals buying back. So I don't think that fall, of course, stock always goes up and down, right? I'm not saying it doesn't, it's just going to be going up all the way. I'm not saying that at all, but there's a real chance that it can be going back to where it belongs. And it's whether or not you believe that the Tesla is just a car company. And if you agree with that narrative, then everybody has won the game because they've said, "Oh, see, it's only $100. That's what it's fairly valued at." Or people are saying, "Oh, it's $200. That's fairly valued." No, it's not, because they're going to show the world March 1st that they're not just a car company. I just showed in my previous episode with Alexandra that Tesla Energy is at 5.4%, 5.39% of percentage of total revenues. And so we're getting there.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of things were said there. So
Yeah.
First of all, the whole argument, we fell from 300 down to 100. We can come up just as fast. Not quite, right? I mean, the stock market at the end of the day is physics, and physics, it's a lot easier for gravity to pull something down than to fight against gravity and go up, right? I mean,
Okay.
that's just how things tend to be. It's a lot easier to fall than it is to go up. Stock market is no different than that. So, yes, we did fall very aggressively, but should take more time to go up, at least for a good healthy, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of doing a crash diet for yourself. Now, as far as what you're saying with people piling in, yes, you're right. But that's what's gotten us to this point. In order to sustain these levels, you need to continue to have more buyers and sellers. Now, let's be honest, when you see something that's run up 70, 100% in such a small window, ignore that as Tesla. Pretend it wasn't Tesla. Would you be willing to go in there and just throw money into it knowing that? Probably not. And I think that's what a lot of fund managers that don't follow or believe in Tesla the way we do, I think a lot of them start shorting, right? Saying this is ran too much, let's short it. And that's where, you kind of, that's what makes a market, right? So you got those buyers and sellers. And so I think as you get more macro information, people are going to start unloading. People are going to say, hey, we've already made our 30, 40, 50, 70% for the year. Let's get out of this before the macro, goes back to crap. And then you just get back into that same capitulation. Now, as far as what you just said there about it being, just a car company and all that, I agree with you, right? Tesla's clearly not just a car company, but I still don't think most people understand that or see that. And I don't think March 1st is really going to show us a lot about that. I'm still very bullish that eventually FSD beta is going to have a viral moment, right? We saw it with ChatGPT. We've seen it with all kinds of things where there's a moment and it just goes viral. Why hasn't that happened with FSD beta yet? Well, there's a lot of friction, right? It's expensive. Not everybody has it. It's not quite there yet, but it's close, right? So, but eventually it's going to get to a point where people are going to say, you have to try this. This is unreal. It is that good. And at that point, that's where I think all bets are off. And I think that's why Elon's so adamant about $1,500 in the next, 2 to 5 years, what he said.
It can happen as soon as FSD version 11.3 is rolled out to all of us because, well, it's supposed to be single stack, right? And I'm pausing because initially single stack was not just the highways, but the city streets, but also parking lots. Yeah. But then I remember that in the past, they actually delayed. They said parking will come after. But if you can see the parking lot and you can see the car, you can drop you off and then it finds a parking spot, or when it comes to you. And we know that Smart Summon and Summon have not been very good at all. It's been pathetic. But if it actually works, and theoretically, this is supposed to be a lot easier because it's not driving in 30, 50 miles per hour. It's like in a parking lot, it can drive very slowly. It can look at things and it now knows what it's doing. If it's figured that out, that would be a viral moment. People would be shocked. Like, you're going into the supermarket, you see this thing driving itself and parking on its own. And that could be the viral moment. I wanted to show this.
I love that. Yeah. Well, just real quick before you show something, I love that. That's such a. I hadn't even thought about what I would consider the viral moment, but you're right. Could you imagine a world where people sit there and say, "Oh, you still go to park? You still walk? Like, oh, I just let my car drop me off and I just go." Like, imagine they.
Well, the other thing that they said was they're going to use neural nets now, not only for the driving, but also for navigation and for control. So the control part is the car will know whether it should go to drive or in reverse. But navigation, that is, in my mind, memory. And so now if it's in my driveway, I've got a curvy driveway, side loading garage, and it sees me drive that path all the time, after 5-10 times I've done it, it will know how to do that path because it'll have memory and it'll be able to do that. So in the same way, once a bunch of cars in a certain parking lot figures things out, it will be able to navigate through the parking lot. Anyways, I want to show this one. I thought it was an interesting comment by our Curious Sand. They said, if Tesla has delivered on all its promises, $300 would be justified. Well, let me ask you that question. You're saying it would jump up to 200. It's going to take a while before to get back to 300 where we were at in September. What exactly did Tesla not deliver on its promises that justifies a drop from 300 to 200?
All right. Well, sorry. So I might have read that differently than how you're reading it. But to me, if Tesla delivers, if Tesla has delivered on all, that's I feel that's weird grammatically. So
Correct.
I don't
Okay.
know if
Gotcha.
you're saying would or
Right,
it
right, right, right.
didn't.
You're right.
Well, I'll just say how I read it. If Tesla were to deliver on all their promises tomorrow, meaning
Yeah.
robo taxis, all that, the stock would
No,
probably,
wait,
yeah.
Robotaxi. Come on. It doesn't have to
Well,
deliver
that's what I'm
Robotaxi
saying.
to get to
I'm just saying.
300. We're
No,
just
I'm
going to
saying
300
okay. So I read that saying if Tesla did
if they
everything,
did.
it would be 300. That's how I read it.
It's going to way more than 300. Yeah. But
That's what
okay.
I'm saying. That's all I was saying. I disagree with that. I'd be like, this is insane. This would be like 2,000 probably, overnight, right? Um, but yeah, no, I think the only thing really holding Tesla back right now is the economy. That's it. I don't think it's anything else. I don't think it's Elon. I don't think it's Twitter. I think it's the economy, and it's the fact that it's it's you have to get a car loan, right? Most people are buying cars on loans. Interest rates are higher, lower demand. And I know with all the price
Can I
cuts and
push back on
everything.
that?
Yeah, go for it.
So Jeff Lutz showed a bunch of analysis because your Elon himself said what you just said. If the car loans are higher, you're going to have less buyers. But Jeff produced a beautiful chart that looked at the auto loan rates over the last 10, 15 years, and it does not impact the sale of the new car sales. There's no correlation between the two, so it's kind of a bit shocking. We got to remember, you look like you're a very young guy. I'm very old, and 3% interest rates is ridiculous. We've been very, very, very lucky, spoiled as a society for the last 5 to 10 years. I'm old enough to remember when interest rates at 8%, 10%, 7. I've been through the 80s where it was at 17%. Everybody, it was massive, bad days. So, we're all freaking out that the interest rate's at 5%. Oh no, that's not going to destroy a market. But anyways, did you know that the used car market is actually rising? The prices are going up. So this whole doomsday, everybody said that, it's not happening.
Okay. So a lot was said there again. All right. So first of all, with regards to it doesn't change. Okay, I feel like that is a half truth. Okay, and I haven't seen what you're referring to. Sure, volumes may have kept up, sales might have happened, but prices will probably drop, margins were reduced, right? That has an effect on the stock price. That affects the amount of cash that flows to the bottom line. That affects PE. So sure, maybe it doesn't affect, and again, whatever chart you're looking at, maybe it doesn't affect volumes overall, but it does impact the financials of the company. So that's undeniable. And so that's what Elon's whole point was, which is the same point I forgot he even brought that up, but yeah, on that Twitter space, I think was when he said it. But yeah, so if interest rates keep going up, sure, people will probably still buy cars anyways, but it's only going to be because they have discounted the vehicles. And right now, Tesla's in a great position, right? Where they're fine. They can continue to discount. And they can discount all the way to zero margins and they will destroy every other automaker, right? But the point is, if you really want to see the vision of what Tesla is, what a lot of us have viewed as the future of Tesla, we're talking about an auto company in Tesla that has software-like margins, right? So eventually you're going to have to get back to that. And so that's my only point, is that regardless, the macro is keeping them down. Right. If we didn't have this whole issue with the macro, if rates weren't continuing to go up, Tesla wouldn't have to drop their prices and then essentially make less money. So that's the nature of it. So I think once the macro clears, once we feel confident in what's going on with everything, you're going to see Tesla just recover massively. Right. It is undervalued right now, but it's not undervalued given where we are with the economy. And don't forget, it wasn't that long ago we were at $100. So a lot of people are probably sitting on the sidelines saying, well, I'm not going to get in just yet. We're just at 100. Yeah, who's to say we can't go right back there?
Yeah, I look at it the other way, which is we had an all-time high at $400 in February of last year. And then it fell to $300 in September because of macro. And then it fell from 300 to 100 in the last 2 months of the year last year because of potential China demand, because of Elon and Twitter, and because of something. China demand, Elon, Twitter, and what am I forgetting? Macro, the macro. And so those are the reasons it fell. But now I'm looking at it going, it's 200. Okay. So it could be up to 400. That's where it was before. No, so tell me. So some people will say, well, 400 was over, that was a hype and all that. So I agree. I'll let you have that a bit. Okay. But 300, absolutely, that is no longer like this is I won't say that's a fairly valued company today at 200. There's just no way that's the case, because Elon, that's to that point, Tesla has hit everything that they're needing to do, if not more, in terms of everything. They're just kicking it. Everything's going really, really well. I'm very happy with everything.
No, and I agree, but I would also say it is fairly priced today because it's what it's at, right? So
I don't agree. I'm an investor. I invest the way I invest is like, you'll say that, then I'll say no. I see an opportunity. This is cheap, and so I'm going to buy now, and that's how what makes us right.
No,
some people say it's expensive. Some people cheap. You got to be ahead of the game.
I agree with you. But for today, it is fairly priced for today, for the 15th, the day after Valentine's, for what we think is going to happen in the future. Because if it wasn't priced at the right price right now, and you didn't know what you think you know and what you believe your future predictor to be, then you would have no market, right? Someone has to be wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm saying.
So that's what makes the market. And that's why, people like us, we're invested for the long term, because we know what we believe to be the case. But today, and it's not just Tesla. That's the other thing. Like, you have to get out of or not you, but in general, you can't look at the stock price and just think, well, Tesla's doing everything right. Well, it's much bigger than Tesla, right? Tesla's one company in an entire macro, economic picture. So, but that's just what I think. And what I think is probably wrong. I wouldn't have guessed that we'd jump up this fast so quickly on the backs of price cuts, right? Like, I never would have guessed that, but that's why I'm not a day trader, because I would suck at it. I just look at the long term, and I look at what I think is going to happen in 2030, and I think it's the most obvious thing in the world. So,
what do you think about the European Union actually signing into law the banning of 0% of carbon emission by 2035? And then piggyback from that question, I've been asking this to people, is that, do you think that Elon will want the OEMs, the other OEMs, to survive? And is he going to try to help them survive? Or is it is it beneficial to Elon and Tesla for them to all die, because they're on their path to dying, as far as I'm concerned? I'm not sure who's going to survive, but let's say that there's 20 OEMs, maybe 3, 5 might survive. There's going to be 10 dying. So is that, if they die, that's not going to be in favor of a sustainable future, but, sustainable energy for the future. What do you think?
Okay. So let me try to get my thoughts in order here. So I disagree with that last statement you said, that letting them die, whoever they are, I'm not going to pick out names out of a hat, that would be worse for a sustainable future or slow it down. Okay. I think I don't think it's easy or even really possible to go into a legacy company and change the way they think, change the way they operate. I think it's much easier for Tesla to try and grow faster, or if anything, for Tesla to support other EV companies that are already in existence, like newcomers. I think that's easier than to help companies rethink the way they do everything they do internally. And so, I don't think Tesla will help them in any way that's more so than what they already do. I mean, they already do it, right? They have the majority of their patents are open source. He's offered to allow them to license FSD beta. I mean, like, they're doing more than enough, and they have their plate full. And let's be honest, every dollar in profit, would you rather it be in the hands of Elon or in someone else?
Right. Exactly.
So if they die out, I think it's more efficient capital allocation to have it in the hands of Tesla or SpaceX or just Elon in general. So that's how I see it.
I like it because you're even if you subsidize them or you do that, doesn't mean they're going to survive. You're just punting it. They're going to die eventually. You're just wasting your money because, like you said, it's the culture, it's the company. Can they even do this? And it's unfortunate that unfortunately not. It's very rare in any kind of technology advancement that the incumbent somehow figures out how to survive. I think the closest one that I know of is Blockbuster, when DVDs, when they needed to switch from VHS and retail presence to DVDs, they almost copied and almost beat Netflix, and they started offering DVD by mail,
Yeah.
and that one almost happened, but they still didn't. And it wasn't because of the technology or issues. It was because, well, this is part of the issue. They have the albatross of their loan that they had to support the retail presence that they had, and then that eventually doomed them because of the interest rates that they had to pay on those loans. But yeah, they almost beat Netflix in that case. But any other thing, you don't. It's rare. It's almost cannot happen, right? The
I'll give one example.
Yeah.
Yeah, one example of what I think has been pretty successful to a degree would be Microsoft. I think Microsoft has been able to pivot. They saw the writing on the wall, and they, albeit almost a decade too late, they jumped into public cloud. And while I think it's very clear
Azure.
Amazon is number one by a mile, just on their services, their breadth of experience, all that, Microsoft did pivot pretty decently, and they're number two, at least in the west side of the world, when it comes to public cloud. So, and then what they're doing with ChatGPT, this is
it's gonna be interesting.
It's not great. I'll tell you that. It's funny to watch. Yeah. I put a tweet up not too long ago. Whoops, I went a little limp there. I watched or I put a tweet up recently talking about this, and watching all these companies scramble to have a answer against ChatGPT or somehow use it or do something similar is like watching all these OEMs try to get into EVs and then autonomy and it's kind of funny to watch. And I don't think that it's going to go as smoothly, or I don't see it disrupting Google. I think it's interesting. It's a good headline right now, but I think to underestimate what Google can do would be a mistake. And if anything, the one company that I could see honestly disrupting all of that would be Tesla.
Why? How? I mean, I know that we are AI. I know that we haven't even talked about Dojo as a service yet. And then I know that we have, I get neural nets that it can do the AI, visual AI that can, recognize everything. But what about search? How do you do that? Because
as far as search, when it comes to search, leveraging AI, even more specifically, right? Leveraging large language models, leveraging neural nets. Tesla has the expertise and the experience of doing very difficult problems with neural nets, and with what they're doing with Dojo. I mean, it seems like if they want to get into this, it could almost be game set match. And
it's already game set match.
Yeah, well, I agree. But it's interesting. But I think ChatGPT is still is pretty awesome in its own accord or its own right.
Nicholas, I love having you on here. You have different opinions than I do, so we gotta keep talking. And I appreciate you. You've changed my mind a few times, so thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining me again. And I think that this experiment's working, where I'm redirecting people from one show to this show. We'll see if that works better. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks Nicholas. Appreciate it.
Cheers.